the 1991 to 2005 Acura NSX. I'm going to cover some basic specs in this video, then we're going to go into some interesting facts that you probably did not know regarding the NSX. Then we'll end off with the various model year changes that happened between 1991 to 2005. So let's get into the specs first. In 1991, when the car was first unveiled, we had a 3-liter naturally aspirated 24-valve V6 engine, putting out 270 horsepower and 210 pounds-feet of torque if you got the 5-speed manual transmission. If you got the 4-speed automatic transmission, the horsepower dropped to 252. Now the red line on these vehicles was very high. It was 8,000 RPM, but once again, that's only if you got the manual. The red line drops to 7,500 RPM if you got that 4-speed auto. Premium fuel was recommended by Acura at this time. And we had an 18.5 gallon fuel tank with fuel economy ranging between 19 mpg in the city, 24 highway for the manual, and 18 city, 24 highway for the automatics. A lot of that has to do with how lightweight this car is. We have an aluminum unit body chassis. The car only weighs 3,010 pounds for the manual and 3,098 pounds for the automatic. Weight distribution was 42% in the front, 58% in the rear. We had proper suspension architecture here, independent aluminum double wishbones in the front and in the rear. Acura utilized forged alloy wheels on the NSX, but they were really tiny. It was 15-inch wheels in the front, 16-inch wheels in the back, 205 tires in the front, 225s in the rear. The front and rear brake discs were 11.1 inches, and I'll briefly cover the exterior here. The overall length of this car was 173.4 inches long, and the wheelbase was only 99.6 inches. So I'm not sure if many of you are aware. I mean, this is a pretty tiny car, all things considered, but I suppose cars were just smaller back then in general. Their goal with this car was to make sure the coefficient of drag was under 0.33, and once again, they have succeeded. The coefficient of drag for the 1991 NSX is 0.32. The NSX started at $62,000 in 1991, but that price quickly rose throughout the years. Then it became 70, 80,000, and in 2005, which was the last model year, the car started just under $90,000. And I believe the NSX between 91 and 05 sold just under 9,000 units in the United States. So let's continue and let's talk about some of those interesting facts now. The NSX project initially started in 1984. That's when they first started to do their research and development. They were benchmarking cars like the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, Lotus, and the Porsche 911 of the time. But as you already know, these vehicles, the Ferraris, the Lambos, they just were not very reliable. It's not like today where you can go buy a Huracan and put 100,000 miles on it. Times were very different back then. Things like the Porsche 911, if you got the turbo models, they would spin out like crazy. Very unpredictable, quirky, strange cars. A lot of these European supercars were. And Acura noticed this and they wanted to change that. And that's why they started to work on the NSX, and the car pioneered easy to live with supercars that we see today, right? Like the McLarens, the Lambos, etc. But it started here with the NSX. And with that established, let's get into the first fact. The suspension components were made from aluminum, as I mentioned before, and this saved Acura 44 pounds compared to steel components. And this is all unsprung weight, mind you. Because it's very lightweight, it's still really competitive. I think most people got 0 to 60 times well under 6 seconds, when they dumped the clutch and really abused the manual transmission, right? And that's great, that's fine, but the point is these cars had character and soul with their excellent naturally aspirated V6 engines, or even something like the Honda S2000. It's that soul, it's the sound, it's that sonorous experience that these cars offered. That's what set them apart. That's what made them special. And the fact that it's reliable, fuel efficient, and easy to live with, well, that just makes this an excellent package, right? Okay, let's continue. The shock absorbers are gas-filled and feature a newly designed HPV piston and bottom valve, which opens progressively under vertical loads. This progressive opening of the valve produces a more favorable damping profile and a more precise damping control than a conventional valve system, in which the fluid control orifices are either fully opened or closed. And dealing with things like the toe change under dynamic conditions and controlling things like bump steer, it's a challenge with a lot of high-end sports cars or exotic cars. And Acura stated that the standard solution that most exotic cars take to address these issues is usually extremely stiff bushing material and very high spring rates, as well as hard damping. And this, Acura states, it's a solution that's appropriate for a race car, but not really for a road-going vehicle, right? So I think that's what many people seem to misunderstand. They don't really understand what they truly want in a street car. Having this undrivable, ultra-stiff machine is just very impractical, and it's not something that you want to drive for long term. It's not enjoyable, is the point. That's why you need some compliance in a vehicle, even if it is a sports car or a supercar, because where do you primarily drive it? Well, it's going to be on the street. And if you really wanted a car to drive on the track, I don't understand this. Like, why don't most people just go and buy a real race car? They're not even that expensive. In fact, you can get proper race cars for less money than a lot of supercars. I never really understood that, but Acura here taking the pragmatic approach. The solution Acura took with the NSX was not to over control wheel motion with excessive spring force and hard bushings, but rather to design in a beneficial amount of toe change and deflection, which would enhance handling and precision. And most importantly, they just wanted something that was predictable to drive as well. The wheels, as I mentioned, they are forged, and compared to cast aluminum wheels, the total weight savings of all four wheels amounts to 13.2 pounds. But there is a spare. And that spare is made from cast aluminum. But it's just crazy that this ultra lightweight car, just a tad over 3,000 pounds, has a spare tire, and it has many other things as well, which I'm going to go over. But for now, let's move on to the engine, because that really is the heart and the soul of the NSX, that naturally aspirated 3-liter V6. Of course, this changes throughout the model year, but for right now, let's just talk about the 1991 car. Obviously, Acura scrapped the usage of turbos or superchargers. They wanted the NSX to be simple and reliable while being fuel efficient to avoid that US gas guzzler tax. And one of the interesting things regarding this engine is the titanium connecting rods. Now, titanium rods are common in Formula One cars and other racing applications, but the NSX is the first application of titanium in a production car, and Acura is using specially patented titanium alloy. This reduces parasitic power loss, which makes the engine more efficient and improves the throttle response. But titanium, it's also lightweight and extremely durable. It allows for sustained high RPM operation without any loss in durability. The titanium rods weigh 190 grams less than steel rods, but as I already mentioned, it's significantly stronger as well and helps make this car more reliable. Of course, we have the VTEC, and it's not just a gimmick. Sure, it does sound really great once you cross over into that VTEC, but the system also adds 20 horsepower and provides more torque and a broader torque curve as well. And it's things like VTEC and the high RPMs that makes the engine so charismatic. The manual transmission was designed to be easy to use. They are offering a short throw gear change, smooth engagement, and a light progressive clutch. The transaxle features a double cone synchronizer in the second gear and a synchronized reverse gear as well. The gear noise in all of the forward gears has been reduced, and the typical whine found in many reverse gears has been eliminated by a combination of refinements, including the design of the gear teeth and adjusting the backlash. The shift throw is just 40 millimeters, and most exotic cars of this time had a shift throw of 60 to 70 millimeters. And we had that twin disc clutch, which requires just 13 kilograms of pedal effort compared to most other exotics, which required between 14 to 19 kilograms of pedal effort. Once again, everything about this car, it's trying to be easy and livable. And we should mention this as well. You know, we had the 4-speed automatic transmission. I know everyone wants the manual transmission in these cars, and if you have the opportunity to buy one of these cars, you should get them in manual transmission to help with the resale value as well. Of course, these things have gone to the moon in its value, but it's cool that Acura offered an automatic for those who either don't know how to drive a manual or got injured in some way and simply can't operate a clutch pedal, right? So the 4-speed, it was designed to offer the same sporty feel as the manual. Under maximum acceleration, the automatic will hold each gear close to the red line before upshifting. You can also manually select each gear if you wanted, and if you're driving the car in the cold, then the automatic will automatically default to engaging in second gear to reduce forward creep. Okay, let's briefly move on to the interior space. Acura designed the car to have a low seating position that contributes to a low center of gravity. This also contributes to better aerodynamics because it reduces the frontal area. It's a clean interior space for sure. I certainly don't mind it. The upholstery covering the dash is newly developed. It has a handcrafted 5-layer process, and to enhance durability, the dash upholstery material is a specially formed synthetic which is resistant to sun fading and deterioration due to temperature extremes. The dash covering is hand stitched and hand formed and is designed to impart a soft, high quality feel and look. Regarding the seats, we had leather trimmed upholstery and monoform seat design. The seat upholstery is hand stitched and hand fitted to ensure quality and craftsmanship as well as durability. Once again, durability, that word just keeps popping up. They wanted every aspect of this car to be reliable / durable, but they still had to keep things lightweight. So the seat frame is made of stamped aluminum, which is a first for a production car according to Acura. They also simplified the design. The NSX seat has about 1/3 fewer parts compared to a typical power seat. The side bolsters use a high density foam for a more rigid support, while the seat bottom and the seat back foam material is of a lighter density. The seat back has a split pad design in order to reduce the tension on the seat surface. And this is where the engineering of this car really comes together. So you know how I kept mentioning that this is a very lightweight car, just 3,010 pounds when you go with that manual? Well, that's an impressive number to keep in mind because this car came with that spare tire that I mentioned to you before, but it's also got, you know, a fine leather trimmed interior space. You have climate control here. You have a Bose audio system. You got a jack and an air compressor in this car, and you still got plenty of luggage space, 154 liters of rear luggage capacity. That's enough to accommodate 2 golf bags. So that's just incredible to me that we have all of these luxurious features and the car still manages to pull off a light curb weight. But let's continue here. Okay, that climate control system, it's actually installed longitudinally in the car to improve knee and leg room. Acura states this is the optimum layout for a mid-engine car. The system provides the same cooling and heating capacity as a 4-door sedan, but it's actually 30% smaller in overall size. I mentioned to you the Bose audio system. Bose engineers worked together with Acura when developing the NSX, and we have here 4 speakers, 2 mid-range speakers in each door, a subwoofer in the passenger side footwell, and a mid-range / tweeter mounted on the rear bulkhead between the seats. This audio system, it was designed specifically for the NSX. The speakers are enclosed in a specially designed ABS plastic housing, and these housings are acoustically tuned and each has a built-in switching amplifier module. A 6-disc CD changer is installed in the trunk as an available option. So you have all these features. The car is still super lightweight. All that has to do with the aluminum unit body structure that we have here. They chose to go with aluminum over things like carbon fiber, sheet molded plastic, steel, fiberglass, and many other plastics because Acura had many needs that this material had to meet, like strength, rigidity, weight, flammability, formability, cost, and the available quantities necessary for production. Aluminum is approximately 1/3 of the weight of steel, but it's less rigid and it costs 5 to 6 times more than steel back in the 90s. So the challenge for Acura was how they could exploit the weight advantage of aluminum while overcoming all of the disadvantages. So at the end of it all, Acura developed their aluminum chassis, which weighed 462 pounds with the doors, hood, and the deck lids installed. This weight figure of 462 pounds, this is 40% less than a steel chassis. But with Acura's engineering, they still managed to pull off excellent rigidity and impact protection. This chassis was also significantly stiffer than all of its competitors during that time. And a few more interesting facts I want to go over. We had a lightweight laminated windshield, which saved about 1.36 pounds. And we had a sound deadening rear glass to minimize engine noise intrusion into the passenger cabin. So a unique dual pane vertical rear glass panel was developed. The panels are assembled in the frame with a vacuum between the inner and the outer panes. This helps to reduce engine noise and acts as a thermal barrier against heat and prevents fogging. And these are all of the interesting facts I wanted to share with you regarding the Acura NSX. But what we just talked about was the 1991 model, which was the first model year introduced for the United States. So let's move on. 1992, the car actually received no new changes. In 1993, a passenger airbag is introduced, as well as a cup holder for the center console. And get this, they actually extended the warranty during this time. The NSX initially came with a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty, while they extended that in 1993 to 4 years, 45,000 miles. That is very impressive, definitely standing by their product. In 1994, no new changes. In 1995, Acura introduced the NSX T, which is an open top version of the NSX. The T stands for Targa, and I believe in 1995 they did not make the standard NSX, they just made this convertible T model, and in 1996 they brought back the coupe apparently. In 1997, we now have here a 6-speed manual transmission, and with this manual we actually get a larger 3.2 liter naturally aspirated V6 pushing out 290 horsepower. But the models that had the automatic continued to use the 3 liter 252 horsepower V6. 1998 sees no new changes. 1999, we got a new special edition called the Alex Zanardi edition. Only 50 of them were made for North America, and this Alex Zanardi edition features the fixed roof. We have a lighter rear spoiler, manual steering, and overall the car is 150 pounds lighter than any other NSX. The Zanardi also is going to come with BBS alloy wheels, a titanium shifter, softer red stitched leather seats, and stiffer suspension and lower ride height. For the year 2000, the NSX gains some improvements for the 6-speed manual transmission. We also got upgraded perforated leather interior and a cleaner engine to qualify as a low emission vehicle. 2001, no new changes, but in 2002, that's when we see the new redesign, or a refresh as some people would call it. I personally really like the 2002 redesign. I prefer the fixed HID headlights as opposed to the pop-up headlamps. Comment below, do you actually like pop-up headlamps? I personally don't, but I would like to hear your thoughts. Anyway, for 2002 we also have redesigned front and rear bumpers, updated exhaust tips, and the interior now gets 6 new color schemes. The center panel has been updated with new chrome plating, but mechanically the NSX is unchanged, but the suspension is retuned and does get larger new wheels. 2003, we have no new changes. But in 2004, we now have a trunk-mounted CD changer. We get keyless entry and a restyled transmission shifter knob, as well as new gauge cluster surround trim. And finally, the last model year, 2005, we see no new changes. So that's everything I wanted to share with you regarding the Acura NSX. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this car. If you're an owner of this car, I would love to hear your thoughts and your experiences with this vehicle. Has it held up for you? How is the parts availability? And what do you guys think about the insane prices that the NSX is trading at? But I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by and watching. I'll have the next video on the end screen here. Click on it and I will see you there.